Two things. First, the absence of President Xi and Putin this weekend and how that might reshape the meetings or potentially affect the utility of the G20 going forward if these two leaders at the highest levels aren't here. Also curious if you have any comment on the apparent reports out of China that they're banning the use of iPhones by government workers or further restricting them for whatever reason, similar to how we've banned TikTok and Huawei. Would that have any effects more broadly on this sort of ongoing back and forth over U.S. and Chinese technology, and how could that affect the global economy?
Well, let me start with your first question pertaining to the absence of Xi and Putin. I think it's important to emphasize that the G20 is a prime contributor to the solution of global challenges. We see it as the premier organization that on a global basis is taking on critical challenges facing the global economy and particularly the global South. And I believe the G20, in spite of obvious problems due to Russia's war against Ukraine and Russia's, general absence from G20 initiatives, I believe the G20 has been extremely effective, and especially under India's leadership, our goals for the G20 have coincided closely with those of India. We've tackled very important challenges. As I mentioned, I think we've had considerable success in changing the way the entire multilateral development system is operating, increasing its mission to take on a variety of global challenges, ranging from better preparedness for future pandemics, where we've established a new finance and health ministers task force, a pandemic fund at the World Bank, as well as climate change, taking on global challenges along with poverty reduction. We've made over the last year very substantial progress in changing not only the mission, but also improving the financial resources of the multilateral development banks to perform their critical missions and changing the incentives and structures under which they operate. And I think that's been an extremely effective initiative. Under India's leadership, debt has been international debt and providing relief to countries that are over-indebted, partly because of the impact of Russia's war against Ukraine, but also the high interest rate environment. I believe we're beginning to make significant progress there. So I do see the G20 as a very effective forum. We appreciate India's leadership. We look forward ourselves to hosting the G20 in 2026, and even without Russia's active participation in the tensions the war has created, I still see the G20 as highly effective.
And China potentially, withholding access to iPhones.
Oh, on iPhone, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of what's involved in that. I'm not really prepared to give you an answer on that.
James with FD.
Thank you, Secretary Yellen. How soon are you expecting other U.S. allies and partners to join your plan for the World Bank with specific pledges? And will the scale of this be sufficient to really reduce the dependence of emerging economies on lending from China, which your administration has described as coercive?
Well, we certainly seek with our G20 partners to enhance the financial capacity of the World Bank and the MDB system more generally. And The reforms that are underway, as I indicated, could lead over the next decade to an additional $200 billion. In addition, we're looking forward to discussing the possibility of putting in place other capital adequacy framework recommendations, like adding callable capital that could further increase the resources. But President Biden has asked Congress to provide an additional $2.25 billion to the World Bank, an initiative that is designed to show our commitment to relieving global problems of the South, taking on global issues like climate change and pandemic preparedness. And those resources can lead to around an additional $25 billion, just the U.S. contribution to lending ability of the World Bank. They would go toward additional funds for IDA to make very low-cost subsidized loans to the most challenged low-income countries, as well as concessional finance to attack global problems. And we have asked other countries to join with us to the extent that they're able to in this initiative. We are hopeful that other countries, depending on their financial capacity, will join us, and we can scale that up. In addition, with respect to the IMF, the supplemental calls for an additional $25 billion loan from the U.S. to the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust at the IMF that would be further concessional finance for low-income countries. So these are important initiatives, doing what we can, and it's not just a question of responding to China. It's a question of addressing two long-standing global challenges, reducing poverty, addressing global public goods issues, that this is a critically important mission.